Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm going to be taking more of your questions in a segment of Ask Judy. So if you're enjoying these, please do hit like and subscribe. And if you have a question, then please just put it in the comments below. That's where I pull these questions from. The first question is from Dan. He asks, was it hard to get caught back up when you were back in school, or did you have the same school books on the set? Yes, we had the same school books. At the beginning of each school year, I would go to my own high school and I would find out what courses I was required to take and what book they would be working with. And then I would get those books from my school, and those would be the books that I would work with the teacher on the set. Now, sometimes when I went back to school, which was usually around February for just like 3 months, and then sometimes I would come into a class. I remember coming into a literature class one time, and they were reading the last chapter of Les Miserables. And then they were going to be starting on an assignment. So I had not been reading that book because I didn't know that was going to be one of the reading assignments. So I literally had to read that book over about 2 or 3 days so I would be caught up. Oh, it was grueling. That is a very thick book if you've ever read it. Another time I came back into I believe, biology class, which was not my best strength in school. And I was a couple of chapters behind. So I was trying to quickly catch up on my own, and there'd be a test every week, and I remember failing the first couple of tests because I had no idea what was happening, and I had to do all that catch-up work on my own and get up to speed and understand what was happening, and then I got ahead, and then I started getting really good grades, and then other kids in the class wanted to copy off me. But that teacher graded on a bell curve, so I was like, heck, this will impact my grade. I'm not sure I really want you cheating off of my paper. Karine asked, be interested in learning about the various sets that were used to depict movie theaters in the Waltons. There were several episodes where people go to the show and the sets all look a little bit different to me. So question, did you ever shoot in an actual editing room where a real movie screen was a permanent fixture, or were the screens always just set up for filming purposes? I think they were pretty much just set up for filming purposes, so they had more control over where the cameras were and how they could light. So that would be the type of thing we might set up on, I think it was stage 23 was one of our alternate stages that we used. So they would have brought in, just like they do with an airplane, they would have brought in seats and, and movable walls and would have had a wall with a projector. And now whether they were actually projecting that movie during the actual filming or whether that was put in later, that I don't remember. So, but I don't recall us ever going into an actual editing room. And then also, what about the real movie clips and newsreels that were used? Were they public domain, or did you have to acquire the rights somehow? I don't know what the situation with the actual clips was. If they were like footage of World War II or newsreels or things like that, then those would have been the actual footage. And same thing with the movies. So depending on what the era, they probably had to get some sort of rights, but we were on the Warner Brothers lot. So chances are they used footage from the Warner Brother archives. They may still have needed to pay some sort of rights for those. Esther asked, I love the Baldwin sisters' innocence, but sometimes I think they knew the recipe had alcohol. Could be. Anyway, so the question was, I know you all probably had to work long hours, but was it hard to transition back to real life when you were given time off from the set? Also, did you all go home every day after filming, or did you guys have to live on the set for a time? We never did live on the set because it was a basically home-based location, so we weren't away on location. And when we did go to Fraser Park, every once in a while we did stay over, but we would stay over in a town called Gorman that was right nearby. So we never actually lived on the set. There was no real way to do that. I mean, not that you couldn't go into your dressing room and lay down and rest for a bit, but no one ever stayed overnight. As for going home, yeah, it was long hours, but I've always found it pretty easy to just, take a deep breath at the end of the day, no matter what kind of work I've been doing, and let it go. And I'm happy to step off the set, change my clothes, and go back into my own life. So never a problem for me, but each actor is different. Interesting question here from Paul. He said, I think the series did a great job transitioning as it went along and the characters grew and matured. If you broke the series into 3 portions, early, middle, and later years, what episodes would you consider as your favorites for each time frame? So I'm going to take these in 3-year periods because there were 9 years, so what the heck. So therefore, considering the early as seasons 1, 2, and 3, some of my favorites were The Easter Story, love that. The Literary Man, which I just watched again for the first time in a long time recently, and just loved that episode. And then The Awakening, because it was a very significant episode for Mary Ellen and really was, I think, a turning point for her in terms of maturity. So love that. In the middle years, The Nurse, again, because it was a big transition point for my character. The Best Christmas, love it as a holiday episode, and just so many stories going on with all the family having to pull together, and really epitomized the meaning of the Christmas spirit. And then The Firestorm, one of my all-time favorite episodes, where I thought Richard Thomas and John Ritter just did brilliant work, and again, love the storyline and the message with Mrs. Brimmer and what she reveals when she picks up that book and starts reading the Bible in German. And then for the later years, Day of Infamy, again, impacted my character, so that was pivotal for me. And just, again, such an important moment in history for all of us and for the United States, and what happened with the war and the way it impacted the rest of the series, all of that. So love that episode. The Spirit, again, a holiday one. Maybe I have like holidays on the mind because we're so close to the holidays, and I absolutely love the holidays. But I thought it was a sweet story and really enjoyed it. And then the last one I mentioned was The Wager. I wouldn't say I thought it was one of our best episodes, but for me, it was one of my favorites to film because I got to go to work all day and ride horses. So for me to get to go do 2 things I loved, I would have loved to have done like Westerns or action films because of all the sports I did, and Westerns because I loved riding so much. So there you go. My next question is from Khan. I'm thinking Can. Judy, I was wondering if you had normal childhood teen experiences like being a brownie or a Girl Scout, getting your driver's license and cruising with friends, proms, and first dates. I'm guessing you just didn't have the time. I did get to do a lot of normal teenage things, particularly since I didn't start doing the series till I was in high school. So I was already had a lot of just normal experiences, life experiences. And then, in school, I was part of student government. I was on, committees and different things like that. Did all those kinds of things. I did have to learn to drive and get my driver's license. Although I didn't get to go to my own prom, I did go to someone else's prom as his date. So that was great to have that experience, and a little bit of cruising, but it was pretty tame in the 70s with me and my friends. There was one street that people would do a bit of cruising on. It was pretty low key, but so I had a lot of those types of experiences. I never did do Girl Scouts or brownies or anything like that, but that was kind of a choice. And then also, did you encourage your kids to get involved with acting at all? When my son was little, my agent did ask if I was interested in them submitting him for some things. He did do one TV commercial. I was a complete wreck. He was fine. I hated every moment of it as a stage parent. I was just so protective and was like, no, I was horrified by, I felt they didn't really take care of the children well. And so I was like, nope, I'm done. And he didn't care. He was like 2.5. So I'm like, I don't think so. And then when he was a little older, he did express some interest in acting once or twice. So I just kind of left it to him. He did work with me on the TV series that I did up in Canada, Bluff, that I did writing and directing on. So he did a few episodes, 2 or 3 episodes of that series. So that was great to do some scenes with him and to direct him. So yeah, he did a little bit and then chose to move more into other areas of the creative arts. And so he's kind of working more behind the scenes now. So thanks for your interest. A question here from Greg. When they are shooting a close-up of your doing dialogue with another actor, is that other actor really in front of you, or are you just speaking to an empty space or person to give you a sense of personal interaction? It depends on the circumstances. Typically, the other actor is there, and the other actor will be very close to the camera because they want your eye line as close to camera as possible without looking directly at camera. So that person will be standing just off to the side of where the camera is, but really tight in. So as an actor, when you're doing those sorts of close-ups, I mean, you can see the camera operator, you can see the assistant camera operator, and you can see the director, and you can see all these people behind the camera and around the camera in your peripheral vision, but you hone in on that actor you're talking to and really just make that your primary focus, and you learn to just tune out everybody else. But sometimes, and if you have multiple actors, you might have a number of people really crammed in tight. So as an actor, when you're doing off-camera stuff, a lot of times it's like you're all squished in really tight together next to the camera so that the eye lines don't go way over here. They want to keep the eye lines like here, here, here. They want them close enough to camera. So those are a lot of cheated things like that. Sometimes you're in a position where, because of where the camera is, the other actor simply cannot get in there. And so then a lot of times they'll just give you a mark. They'll go, okay, like focus here, or they'll say, we'll put a spot on a stand, on a C stand or something like that. One of the, stands that holds a light, or, a flag or something that would, help define the lighting. So they'll do things like that, or it's like, oh, on the door frame or here. So you just have a visual eye line, and then the lines will be thrown to you. Usually the other actor is still around and they are actually throwing you those lines off camera, but you are not actually seeing them. And sometimes, occasionally something would happen where the other actor couldn't be there. It would happen sometimes with the children when it was like end of day and we had to be dismissed because of the limitations on how long they were allowed to have us on set. So the kids have gone, and then if you were over 18 and were no longer a kid and had to do scenes, it could be that you ended up doing a scene where the other actor wasn't there, and then you're given your sight line, and the script supervisor would typically read those lines. And our script supervisor was not what I would call an actor. So we'd get these really sort of dry line readings. So you'd have to kind of, for yourself, put life into it from the other side, remember what the other actor, what their performance was like, and just sort of create it. And all of this is very much like the type of thing that you do when you audition, where you don't necessarily have the other actor. You've got somebody reading who may not be a good reader, good actor, and you just have to kind of create all that. If there's multiple people in a scene when you're auditioning, you have one person, and then you have to decide where those other people are, whether you deliver all of your lines to that person or whether you go, oh, there's a person over here, or there's like two people over here. So you choose to split, and identify the people that you're talking to. Those types of things are choices that each actor makes for themselves. So hope that answered your question. That's what I have for you for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons, Ask Judy. And hopefully I will see you next time on another Behind the Scenes of the Waltons or another Ask Judy. Thanks for watching.